No, we have not read.
Oh, we have not read. So, okay, very good. Then, Yasmin, you only read. Okay. Therefore, the teacher says, and Pallavi has not read for a long time, so she can also read.
Whatever thou sayest, O Lord.
Yeah, go ahead.
Therefore, says the teacher, put away this vain sorrow and shrinking. Fight, O son of Bharata. But wherefore such a conclusion? This high and great knowledge, this strenuous self-discipline of the mind and soul, by which it is to rise beyond the clamor of the emotions and the cheat of the senses to true self-knowledge, may well free us from grief and delusion. It may well cure us from the fear of death and the sorrow for the dead. May well show us that those whom we speak of as dead are not dead at all, nor to be sorrowed for, since they have only gone beyond. It may well teach us to look undisturbed upon the most terrible assaults of life and upon the death of the body as a trifle. It may exalt us to the conception of all life circumstances as a manifestation of the One and as a means for our souls to raise themselves above appearances by an upward evolution until we know ourselves as the immortal spirit. But how does it justify the action demanded of Arjuna and the slaughter of Kurukshetra? The answer is that this is the action required of Arjuna in the path he has to travel. It has become inevitable in the performance of the function demanded of him by his Swadharma, his social duty, the law of his life and the law of his being. This world, this manifestation of the self in the material universe, is not only a cycle of inner development, but a field in which the external circumstances of life have to be accepted as an environment and an occasion for that development. It is a world of mutual help and struggle, not a serene and peaceful gliding through easy joys is the progress it allows us, but every step has to be gained by heroic effort and through a clash of opposing forces. Those who take up the inner and outer struggle, even to the most physical clash of all, that of war, are the Kshatriyas, the mighty men. War, force, nobility, courage are their nature. Protection of the right and an unflinching acceptance of the gauge of battle is their true virtue and their duty. For there is continually a struggle between right and wrong, justice and injustice, the force that protects and the force that violates and oppresses. And when this has once been brought to the issue of physical strife, the champion standard bearer of the right must not shake and tremble at the violent and terrible nature of the work he has to do. He must not abandon his followers or fellow fighters, betray his cause, and leave the standard of right and justice to trail in the dust and be trampled into mire by the blood-stained feet of the oppressor. Because of a weak pity for the violent and cruel and a physical horror of the vastness of the destruction decreed. His virtue and his duty lie in battle and not in abstention from battle. It is not slaughter, but non-slaying which would here be the sin.
Very interesting paragraph, and we'll have a look at it. All our normal ideas that violence is bad and all that, that is being now discussed here. Okay, so earlier he has told you, he has given the all. Arjuna, strangely enough, Arjuna is asking for a guidance. He's saying, what should I do? I'm in a puzzle. So instead of telling him what to do, he starts giving him the higher spiritual knowledge. The soul never dies, the body dies, and the soul is always there. and you don't need to sorrow for those who have gone, because they have not really gone forever. They have only gone from one room to another room. That's all. So uh, you should not sorrow for all these people. That's what he tells him. Okay. So we'll read each sentence and see what he is saying. So instead of giving him practical guidance, he is giving him first spiritual guidance, and then Srirangda in the middle of the para says, spiritual guidance is okay, but how is it relevant to his action in the physical world? You are giving him spiritual knowledge, but he wants practical knowledge. So then Srirangda connects the two, and he brings in the idea of swadharma. Okay, that's a very important connection. So we'll discuss that also. So, therefore, I'm reading the beginning of the paragraph. Therefore, says the teacher, put away this vain sorrow, useless vain sorrow, and shrinking, and fight, O son of Bharata. But wherefore such a conclusion? Srimati is asking, why should you come to this conclusion at all? He is asking for a guidance, but why should you fight? How does this conclusion come? Okay. This is Srimati's question to the reader. Wherefore such a conclusion? This high and great knowledge, this strenuous self-discipline of the mind and soul, by which it is to rise beyond the clamor of the emotions and the cheat of the senses to true self-knowledge, may well free us from grief and delusion. Fine. Your spiritual knowledge will help me to become calm and quiet and even make me free. Okay, I may not have any grief. It may well cure us of the fear of death and the sorrow for the dead. It may well show us that those whom we speak of as dead are not dead at all, nor are to be sorrowed for, since they have only gone beyond. He is drawing conclusions from the spiritual knowledge that has been given to Arjuna. Okay? So, it may well teach us to look undisturbed upon the most terrible assaults of life and upon the death of the body as a trifle. A trifle is something most insignificant, very small thing, no importance at all. It may exalt us to the conception of all life circumstances as a manifestation of the One and as a means for our souls to raise themselves above appearances. Everything in the physical world is appearances. And by an upward evolution until we know ourselves as the immortal spirit. So, all this Srimad is saying is the conclusion from the spiritual knowledge that you get. But he is not asking for spiritual knowledge. He is asking for how to act in the physical world. Therefore, he repeats that question again, which he has said in the second sentence of the para. But wherefore such a conclusion? So he is justifying this conclusion, how it is. Now he says, but how does it justify the action demanded of Arjuna and the slaughter of Kurukshetra? I am asking you for practical guidance of knowledge, of action in the world, and you are giving me something else. If I ask you what is your name, don't tell me your age. There is no relevance between the two. That's what Srimad is saying. Now he will connect the relevance. Okay, it's very interesting. He's going to connect the relevance. Now he's saying the answer to Arjuna being given spiritual knowledge by Sri Krishna for action in the world. It has a relation with the world. And what is that? Because you are a Kshatriya and you have a Swadharma. So now he brings in the Swadharma, the action. We have already had that one day, we have had a session, Swabhava and Swadharma. I just repeat very briefly. Swabhava is every soul that is created by the divine oversoul or the universal soul or God if you want or Ishvara is infinite but one, and he wants to enjoy his manifestation. Therefore he makes himself into 100,000,000 infinite souls, and each one he gives a different nature, and he starts enjoying his own creation through the nature given to that particular soul. This is what he's doing. He's enjoying the battle of life through each soul. He is not satisfied only with one. He wants to enjoy infinitely. So He makes souls, and each soul has got a different swabha, character for each one. One can be a soldier, one can be a jnani, one can be a lover, all these things. So when you summarize all the possible characteristics that is possible for the divine to give to a soul, the conclusion is that you can condense them into major four lines of development. One is in knowledge aspect. Okay, that's a knowledge aspect. He can give, each soul is destined to go towards knowledge, not necessarily towards action. Then there is the of the Shakti, the force, action, not necessarily towards knowledge. It goes towards the force, action, force. Okay. Then there is the aspect of beauty, splendor, wealth, richness, okay, creativity, okay, uh, variety, expression. So this is the other capacity. And then finally you have a very humble submission and realizing that service, okay, kindness and service, that also is an aspect of the divine. So that is all, this is the justification for our caste system. The caste system exists everywhere, but they don't call it caste system. It has been very clearly and trenchantly expressed in our culture. The Brahmin, whose soul is destined for knowledge, the Kshatriya, whose destined work in the world is valor, courage, heroism, protection of the poor, governance. Okay, this is the aspect of the Kshatriya. That's his Swadharma. That is why he has to fight. Then the next is the Vaishya whose work is to produce wealth and enjoyment, but pure enjoyment, not petty enjoyment. He must enjoy, he must create, he must give wealth and splendor and beauty. Okay. This is the work of the Vaishya. He must produce production of everything, wealth, splendor, everything in the physical world also. It is also a divine quality. Finally, you have the Shudra, the one who is humble, meek, okay, very, um, realizing that he is nothing except the divine. Now, it's very interesting. This is the Swadharma, but I'll make a small direct diversion because it's very interesting. In Ramakrishna's entourage, okay, in his disciples, among his disciples, he had exactly these two type of beings. One was Vivekananda, who was a warrior, grave, brave, very brave, okay, and he would fight, and he had full of uh, self-confidence. I won't call it arrogance. Others can call it arrogance, and many he has been charged with arrogance also. But that is self-confidence. Okay, and there was another one called Nagmasha. He is the one who was the humblest of people, very humble and very self-effacing. Okay, he was a he was a householder. He was not a sannyasi. He was a householder. Whereas Vivekananda was a sannyasi. He never married and he never had any attachments. So Ramakrishna says of them, very interesting. I may have mentioned it once, but I am repeating it. Very interesting fact. That's why Vivekananda, by nature, by swabhava, was so great that the net of Prakriti is the ignorance and the senses and the body mind life that imprisons you. Then he could not be imprisoned. He was so great. Any net that tried to catch him would break. Okay, he would break all and go beyond that. Okay? No net was good enough for him. And the other one is the Nagmasha. He is actually the one who wrote the book Kathamrita, because he used to, Kathamrita means the nectar of words, nectar of advice, nectar of conversation by the Ramakrishna. He used to record everything that he used to say, and it will come out in a beautiful book, very beautiful. Everything was recorded by him, and he used to keep absolutely silent. And Ramakrishna said of him, he is so humble and so meek and so self-effacing that the smallest net. If the net has got big holes, the fish can escape. But this net that tried to capture him, no net was small enough for him. Okay, he would escape through the tiniest of holes. So very beautiful image, and this is how he has described. Okay, so what is Arjuna's swabhava and swadharma? He is by swabhava, he is a Kshatriya. He is one who has to protect the weak. He has to do action in the world. He has to be a hero. He has to be brave and a hero, not weak. Okay? And that is what is reminding him. That is why Sri Krishna has given the spiritual knowledge to him. That if you start from the spiritual knowledge and your own swabhava and swadharma, you will realize that you cannot stop saying, I will not fight. You can't do that. That's your swadharma. You have to complete your swadharma in the physical world. So this is the connection between the spiritual knowledge and the action. So it's so beautiful the way Srimad put it. And he has given 7, 8 arguments, and finally he says, how to justify the action? He is asking for practical guidance, and you are giving him spiritual knowledge. Are they connected at all? The ascetic says there is no connection, and that's why he gives up the physical action in the world. But the Gita says, no, with that spiritual knowledge, act in the physical world. So isn't that beautiful? So now, I come back to the text. How does it justify the action demanded by Arjuna and the slaughter at Kurukshetra? By any standard at the human level, slaughter is bad. Whether it's in war or it's in heat of the moment, in a passion you kill somebody, it is bad. So how to justify this? Now the answer, the beautiful answer. The answer is that this is the action required of Arjuna in the path he has to travel. Note that, in the path that he has to travel, not others. The path that has been assigned to him is that of the Kshatriya. His swadharma is to fight. Okay? So it has become inevitable in the performance of the function demanded of him by his swadharma. So swadharma is what you have to perform in the physical world with the instrument of the nature given to you by the divine. That is the connection between swadharma and swabhava. I remember some children asking me, I want to become an architect, but I am not sure. So is it my nature? How to know what my nature is? Should I go into architecture or should I go into philosophy? So the answer very clearly is you don't know your swabhava until you have finally reached the spiritual knowledge. Then you don't know. So that's the nature of the soul. We mustn't think that the nature of the soul for all divine realized people are the same. It is not. Okay? There is infinite variety. Swamdeva keeps on repeating this. Even in this supermind, where constantly he is talking of unity and oneness, that oneness is not a blank. It's not a monotonous oneness. It's a many-sided oneness. That's what he explains. Okay? So now it's clear what he's saying. So your work in the world.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes, please, go ahead.
You know, we have this caste system, but if one was born a Shudra, but in his heart of hearts, he was a Kshatriya, but he could not become a Kshatriya because he was born a Shudra.
Yeah. So,
okay?
Yeah.
But he had the capacity to
Yes.
become a Kshatriya.
Absolutely.
But he could not become.
But in the next life, he'll get a chance. That's the whole point.
But then, don't you think that it was sort of wrong because, or you may be born as Kshatriya, but in your heart of hearts, you were an artist, but you had to become a Kshatriya, although you would have become a bad Kshatriya, but you had to become a Kshatriya. And you could not become an artist.
Okay, this question has been dealt with in the Gita itself. We'll come to that. He says, Sri Krishna says in the Gita, it is better to have even death in one's own swabhava rather than success in another's swabhava. So, very clear statement in the Gita. It is better to have death in your own swabhava rather than success in another swabhava, not your own. So that you have to fulfill the role given to you by the divine, which is assigned to you in the self. Remember in Savitri, okay, when Savitri is saying that I want to be with Satyavan, okay, and I want to leave the physical world and go there. Then the question that the divine asks is, actually it's Yama, but Yama becomes the divine because it's all the same. Yama asks, what will you tell the Supreme when you go back, that you went back without fulfilling the duty given to you? Will you do that? That's a question that is asked to Savitri. And then she realizes that she can't give up the physical world. No? And then she comes down and battles and conquers death in the physical world. That's it. Work assigned to. So each life you are assigned one particular swabhava and you have to perform that. The Gita is very clear on that. The Gita says very clearly, better death, so far it goes as to say, better death in one's own swabhava rather than the another swabhava. Success also is there, that's not worth it. You have a role to fulfill and you have to fulfill. You will get your chance in the next life. Just now, in Life Divine, as he has discussed very clearly, death is not death. Death is a chance for the soul to experience different things in different lives. Because the soul is divine essentially, and it must have infinite experience. So, it can't have infinite experience in one life. So, in one life, you have experienced A. In the next life, you have experienced B. Then next life, you have experienced C. And finally, at the end of it, you have the whole alphabet of knowledge, okay, from A to Z. So each time you are born, you are given a particular swabhava and a swadharma. And you go on gathering the knowledge and the power. And finally, at the last level, when you are ready for liberation, you have all the aspects of it. But sometimes, as the ascetic is saying, I'm not interested in all. But Srindu is saying, why not? You should actually, if you are an integral yogi, you must have all aspects of the divine. So, even when you have got liberation, don't run away. Get the other aspects of the divine also. Right?
No, Rangada, one question.
Yeah.
When the soul has one swabhava, so it
Yes.
changes from life to life.
Yes. Even the nature also can change. Huh? Even the nature can
Nature
change.
can change, but the soul's swabhava can change.
Yeah. Okay. Uh, the potential is there. As Jasmine said, the potential is there. But it need not change because suppose you are an ascetic, you don't want the other aspects. No? You don't want the other aspects. There are souls who escape, like the Buddhistic soul, they escape from the physical world without getting the power. They are not interested. But Sri Aurobindo says, why not get all? Why not get knowledge? Why not get... So it depends on the soul. But the potentiality is there in every soul. It's an interesting question that you're asking, Pallavi. Okay? The soul is free, essentially. So even on the midway journey, okay, the soul can say, I am very satisfied only with knowledge. Some other may say, I am very satisfied only with love. Okay? You remember the ascent to the truth.
Truth.
That's what happens. Each soul is stopping in the middle and going away. So there's no objection with that. Okay. So what Jasmine asked and what you are asking is connected. And the answer to that is the soul is free and can stop in the middle, but also go to the end. And Srinda wants you to go to the end. Get knowledge, get power, get splendor and beauty, and also get humility. Then you are an integral yogi, you are a fit disciple of Srinda and Madhavi. There is no problem in the others. They have got one aspect, fine, no problem. Why should there be one path for everybody? It's not necessary at all. And you are welcome to choose your own path. There is absolutely no problem at all. That is the beauty of Indian culture. No? You are allowed, every religion, you are allowed full freedom. Develop as you want, each soul is different. But the soul is free to decide its own course. And if it decides to be an ascetic, fine. If it decides to have splendor and beauty, fine. If it wants to remain in this spiritual world and help others, fine. But if you want to be what Srimbe is recommending you to be, I want all aspects of the divine, then you have to become a, the soul has to take birth again and again and again and experience all knowledge, power, beauty, splendor, and wealth. And also, you must be humble. Okay.
No, Rangada, what I
Yeah.
thought what Asmin asked was that the society doesn't allow us to express our Swadharma. Like if I think that I am a Kshatriya, but
Hmm.
I'm born in a Shudra family, then the society won't allow me to become a Kshatriya. That's what I thought she meant.
Ask her if that's what she meant.
Yes, yes, because
Okay.
even
Okay.
even in the Mahabharata,
Okay.
I forget who it was.
Okay.
Was it Karna or someone who
Okay.
went to study from Pashuram?
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
And he's sleeping on him or something like that, and some scorpion or something comes and bites him, and he does not move. He endures all the pain,
Ah.
uh, and then Pashuram gets up and he says, Kare, why didn't you move? And if you have this kind of endurance, you are not a Brahmin, you are a
Hmm.
Kshatriya.
He
Okay.
was he
I
was a
think.
Karna.
Remember that story?
Okay. Yeah.
Yes,
Yes,
And
yes.
he says, I will not teach you because you are not a Brahmin. And then he curses him and says that you will forget all that I have taught you. Or, there is some story like that.
Yeah.
yes,
There
it was a
is.
Karna story.
There are
Karna.
opposite stories also. Okay. There are many other opposite stories also.
We have
So
heard.
anyway, the answer to the questions being raised by you two is, I think, this, that there are challenges and obstacles in the physical world for you to meet your Swadharma. Nobody is saying it's easy. Nobody is saying it's a smooth path. Always there are difficulties. So the answer to that is, the difficulties that each soul has to face also differs. So exactly what you said. Even if this Swabhava is one, when you come down into the physical world, are you being presented with the possibility of expressing your Swabhava? You may not. There are obstacles to everybody. Because this is the world of ignorance, this is the world of darkness, this is the world of rigidity and pain and suffering. So this you have to go through that. But every time you go through that, even if society does not allow you, okay, at the end of life you have gained something. So it's a lesson. The life in the world is a school, and you are learning each time. It's like one class, and then you go on. So the answer to that is that, but the swabhava is always given, and the swadharma also is given to each soul. You may not be able to perform it in one life, of course, that is true. Okay. In fact, let me tell you something very interesting. When I had once very much interested in the rebirth, so I had gone to some people who were very good at reading horoscopes. So I got my horoscope done. I asked my father to give me the exact time of birth and the place where I was born. And with that detail, I got my horoscope done, and I went to a person who was well known in Pondicherry. Okay? He was a good horoscope reader, astrologer. So he told me something interesting. I'm sharing it with you. He said that you will always be in the wrong profession. And for 40 years, I was in the press. And what does that mean? Okay, production. So I leave the rest to you. So there are always these difficulties. Okay? So that doesn't mean to say that the Swabhava and the Swadharma is not true. That doesn't mean to say that. Difficulties can be there for every soul. Okay.
Now, excuse me, can I ask another question?
Oh yes, go ahead.
You know, you said that usually the school children ask you, okay, I want to become an architect and then this.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, a child at the age of 14, mother says that that is the age when you start reasoning. And how will a child at the age of 15 or 16 know what I should do in life. It's very
Exactly.
difficult and
Exactly.
it's very confusing. So,
Okay.
how do you know what is your swadharma at that stage?
Okay.
I mean, I've seen so many people taking arts, then moving to science, or taking science and jumping to art. And
That's right.
there is a lot of confusion. There are
Yes.
so many other factors like
Yes.
finance, like fees. Can I
Yes.
afford to pay fees for this or
Yes.
that?
Yes.
So,
Absolutely. Okay, I've got your point. And this was a question that many students used to ask me. Okay, after I finish my 3-year course, should I go into engineering or should I go into journalism or should I go into fashion designing? They used to ask me. Because if I go into the wrong channel, I'll be wasting 2-3 years. This is a question they used to ask me. How do I know what I should do? The answer is very plain. Don't forget the fundamental nature of the physical world. Ignorance, darkness, you don't know. How do you know? By slow growth of evolution. So in one life you can't know. You have to start from darkness. Then the question is, but I'll be wasting 3 years. The answer to that again is, from the soul point of view, what the hell is 3 years? Nothing. You are thinking of your body mind life. If you have made a mistake in 3 years, have you not gained something? Have you not gained from your error? So from the soul point of view, wasting 3 years or 4 years is nothing. This is the answer that you have to give. You don't know. Don't assume that you can know. That's a mistake when you are in the ignorance. But there are people with a very strong will and a very clear mind who have a clear mind and then they know what to do and they stick to it. Whether you are sticking to it or not is also is a quality. Okay, you even if you feel you are failing, you go on, go on, go on. You will get the success. Okay, so that also is an aspect of the divine. There are infinite aspects. Never think in a linear manner. Okay, don't ever think of unity. The world is ignorance and you don't know. You have to start from there. How can I know is a wrong question. You can only know by experience. Go through it and find out for yourself. That's the only answer. It's a very tough and cruel answer because the person will not be satisfied at all. He will say, my God, I'm going to lose 3 years, 4 years. But he is thinking of the body mind life. He is thinking of his personal proper life in the world. He is not thinking of his soul. From the soul point of view, no problem at all. You learn only by mistakes. Siddhartha says so clearly, na? He says, error is the handmaiden of truth. So you have made a big error of 3 years, but you have learned something. It is always giving you towards truth. The soul for soul, there is no time. There is timelessness. You're not thinking of your other lives. In one life, if you stumble, you have gained something. All error teaches you something. So this is when you are stressing too much on the. If you insist that I must know, I am ignorant, I am in the darkness, and yet I want light and I want knowledge, you can't. You have to pay a price. And what is that price? You have to evolve yourself. And how do you evolve yourself? With great difficulty, with great suffering, with great sorrow. That's the only way. It's not a very pleasant message, but that's the truth. One must not shy away from difficulties. Right? Uh,
Nada,
so,
can we say,
yeah.
in a way, can we say that means that actually, I mean, it's what I have understood on this take, that actually we have to discover our Swabhav and Swadharma through years. Through, that is
Abs-
also a process of yoga, of sadhana.
absolutely.
Only
Absolutely.
then can we live it. Before that, we will be where we are, like where Prakriti has brought us. And second thing is,
Absolutely.
wherever we can't hear.
Yes, you have put the whole question in one nutshell. Extremely well done. That's exactly. Yeah. There are others also are listening, but I'll tell you, I must openly say it, okay? I have always appreciated your grasping the nutshell of the truth, okay? You are a very intelligent person and you have put the whole question in a nutshell. Every experience that you have in life, you have to discover your soul. That's the essence of it. And you don't know. To assume that I can know what I should do is a wrong thought, is a mistake. You must be prepared to battle it, and you must be prepared to face life and all its difficulties and discover. How long will the discovery take? It differs for each one and how much effort you put in. Absolutely. She
Like
put it in a nutshell.
like
Life
Ranga,
is an adventure. Yeah, tell me. Tell me.
like Kabir. He was a weaver by birth, but even though he
Yes,
was a great philosopher
yes, that's right.
and living a divine life.
Yeah,
So in India, we can find so many saints, Narsimha Mehta, everybody. They were all born in a very poor poverty and everything. But though
absolutely.
they have a divine, they lived a
Yes,
divine life.
yes. And you can also be born in a royal family. Ram,
Ah,
Krishna, Buddha, they were all from royal families. Okay. Now look at that. Okay. They were born in Kshatriya families, but their Swadharma was spiritual knowledge. Okay.
yes, all our Jain Tirthankaras are were Kshatriya.
Yeah.
All are princes.
Even in
But
the West, there are very interesting examples. There is a story of one. It's a small booklet about 30, 40 pages. Very interesting book. The the practice of the presence of God. Okay? It's a Christian book, Practice of the Presence of God. This was in the 14th or 15th century. It was a Frenchman and who was a cook. Okay, he was a cook. His work is cook. Okay, you can almost say Shudra. Okay, and he was constantly thinking of Christ in his work, and he attained to the realization of his soul and everything. So liberation. So this is a practice of the presence of God. Everybody can do that, whether you are a Brahmin or a Kshatriya or a Vaishya or a Shudra. Everybody has got the potential to reach the divine. They are only different aspects of the divine. The paths are all different, and you have to discover your path. So to assume that I know from the beginning is a wrong thing.
No, Rangada, then the path to the divine will be according to your Swadharma,
Absolutely. No, Swabhava,
Swabhava. Okay,
your nature.
okay.
And the nature is that these four are the basic, but there can be infinite combinations of these, no?
Hmm.
There can be
Yes.
infinite combinations. You don't need to be only a knowledge man. You don't need to be only a soldier. You don't need to be only a. In fact, there are so many in the West. Those who are doctors become writers. Okay,
Hmm.
there are many many examples. Okay. Those
Yes.
who are doctors, they become very good writers. So that's it. So, what's the time? 28. So we have got 7 minutes. So, shall we continue?
Yes, please.
I welcome these discussions because I think, and you have to confirm whether it's useful or not, but these discussions actually clarify your own thoughts. No? If you say that yes, it does help, we will discuss, continue. I invite questions because it clarifies my own mind also. Okay. Sometimes if I don't know what to say, I'll say I don't know. Very frankly and openly, I'll tell you. But what I feel, I know I will exchange my thoughts with you, and you will also explain your thoughts with me, and you will tell me, I don't agree with you. Tell me very frankly. Okay. So, this is what he's connecting spiritual life with the practice in the physical world. But we don't know how to connect them unless we develop ourselves. That's the whole gist of this whole para. Okay? So he is asking for guidance, but Surendra is saying you cannot be guided unless you realize your soul. Then you will know what is your swadharma. Okay? That's exactly the point we are discussing. Okay, so I go to the next sentence. This world, this manifestation of the self in the material universe is not only a cycle of inner development, but a field in which external circumstances of life have to be accepted as an environment and an occasion for the development. So the question which Yasmin asked, when someone doesn't know whether I should be a journalist or a doctor, okay, you don't know, you have to accept the circumstances of life. If you are born in a poor family, you are born in a middle class family, you are born in a rich family, you have to accept as the environment, and it's an occasion for your development. See, so clear Sri Aurobindo is, but we normally don't understand the implications of what he's saying. Huh? So clear. But a field in which external circumstances of life have to be accepted. You have to accept the limitations that you are born into as an environment. And it's an occasion for the development. We normally see the opposite side, but we must understand that it's an occasion for your development. There are so many children who don't agree with their parents, okay, and that's a difficulty they face. But that's the circumstance in which you have been put, and you have to develop from there forwards. Okay? So it is a world of mutual help and struggle, not a serene and peaceful gliding through easy joys is the progress it allows us. Very clear. So when someone is saying, I want to know from beginning whether I should go into journalism or I should go into medicine, he is asking for a peaceful gliding. He says, I don't want to make a mistake. So that is not the right thing at all. You have to, not a serene and peaceful gliding through easy joys is the progress it allows us. But every step has to be gained by heroic effort and through a clash of opposing forces. See, this is exactly what Yasmin was asking and Sharma is answering. You don't know, and you have to meet the accept the circumstances and fight your way through. You will benefit. Everything in the physical world you will benefit. Don't think of loss of time and loss of making mistakes. Everything is a benefit to you. If you don't face the difficulties of life, how will you develop yourself? No? So clear. Those who take up the inner and the outer struggle, even to the most physical clash of all, which is that of war, are the Kshatriyas, the mighty men. War, force, mobility, courage are their nature, protection of the right, and an unflinching acceptance of the gauge of battle. The word gauge is interesting, it's spelled without a U. The gauge with a U has got many meanings, okay? Gauge is measuring rod, but here gauge, G-A-G-E, is something thrown down as a challenge. Like you challenge someone. You take your glove or whatever it is and throw it down on the ground and say, I challenge you. So this is it's a challenge. Okay? The acceptance of the gauge of battle, the challenge of battle. Don't shrink from battle and say, no, I want to know what I want to do. I want an easy path. Somebody is saying very clearly, there is no easy path. Okay? That's the answer to exactly the discussion that we are having. Okay? Is there virtue and the duty? You have to accept that. For there is continually a struggle between right and wrong, justice and injustice, the force that protects and the force that violates and oppresses. And when this has once been brought to the issue of physical strife, the champion and the standard bearer of the right must not shake and tremble at the violent and terrible nature of the work he has to do. This is exactly the mistake that Arjuna is making. He is not realizing what he has to do. So he has to develop himself through this violent action. That's exactly what Shakespeare is telling him. Don't run away from, don't have an easy path. All life is difficult. And your difficulty is exactly this. But you have to perform and he was lucky to get Sri Krishna to guide him. Everybody doesn't have, they have to discover for themselves. Okay? So, he must not abandon his followers or fellow fighters, betray his cause and leave the standard of right and justice. The standard of right and justice to every soul whose swabhava is determined to trail in the dust and be trampled into mire by the bloodstone feet of the oppressor because of a weak pity for the violent and cruel and a physical horror of the vastness of the destruction decreed. His virtue and his duty lie in battle and not in abstention from battle. This is exactly the answer to the discussion that we will have. It is not slaughter, but non-slaying, which would be the sin here. So, when someone is asking, what profession should I follow? Find out for yourself. And don't be afraid of making mistakes. That's exactly what it is. Okay? Non-slaying would be here the same. So, okay, we've come to the end of our time, and I have enjoyed the discussion very much. I hope you have also. Okay, so we stop here today, and next time we will go to the teacher then turns aside for a moment. Okay.
Merci
Guru
beaucoup.
Rangade, merci beaucoup.
Okay.
Wonderful
Thank you,
name.
Rangada.
Yeah,